Good evening, scholars. It is a pleasure to be joining you tonight and sharing my research proposal with you. My research will look at open educational resources and student success outcomes in higher education. Before we get started, let me share with you a little about myself. My name is Montaigne Long, and I am a PhD candidate in higher education administration at Texas A&M University. In my full-time role, I serve as the Associate Director of Veteran and Military Services for the Texas A&M University System. I have worked in higher education for over 15 years, and my focus is on student success and assisting underserved populations. As we jump into this presentation, I want to ensure we are all on the same page, so I would like to start with some background on open educational resources, or what will be referred to throughout this presentation as OER. In 2002, there was a UNESCO meeting to discuss developments in relation to new ways of sharing content on the internet, insufficient library resources, the need for access and materials in languages other than English, and the philosophical view of knowledge as a collective social product. One of the outcomes of this meeting was the definition of OER. That definition is the provision of educational resources enabled by information and communication technologies for consultation, use, and adaptation by a community of users for non-commercial purposes. In higher education, OER is more commonly understood to encompass free online learning content, software tools, and accumulated digital curricula that are not restricted by copyright license and that are available to retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute. You may recognize OER to be things like free open textbooks and other free course materials like educational objects, learning or training resources, or research works that are available to students. You may have also heard of something called Massive Open Online Courses, or MOOCs. MOOCs are also recognized as a type of OER. They were first offered around 2008. However, they were preceded by both open online courses and the OER movement. There has been some debate around whether MOOCs truly are OER, and generally, depending on the intent of the MOOC, they are considered OER. Now, I think if you ask almost anyone, they're sure to have an opinion on the affordability of higher education. The cost of higher education are rising, no doubt. Textbook costs have increased 9.5-fold since 1980, according to data compiled by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. However, the cost of living is only 3.65 times more compared to 1980. OER provide a means of equity and access to higher education in terms of affordability, and there are definite student success outcomes aligned with using OER. When we look at OER as an innovation in higher education, we can see some traits that have helped with its diffusion. OER has relative advantage in that it saves time, money, and effort, along with building students' capabilities. OER also possesses trialability that makes it attractive. Faculty can try OER before adopting it in their teaching, research, or training. Lastly, OER has observability. It provides opportunities to share research with others and encourages cooperative learning. Now, OER is not without barriers. It lacks compatibility, as faculty don't want to share their resources with others. They might be afraid of misuse of OER, and sometimes they don't trust that credit's going to be given where it's due. OER can also appear to be complex to implement in teaching and research, and faculty believe that you have to have sufficient skills, time, and effort to understand its contents. The research that I'm proposing has the following objectives. One, to illustrate the impact of integrating OER into higher education curriculum on student academic performance. Two, to demonstrate how OER adoption can positively influence student engagement. Three, to examine the relationship between OER utilization and student retention rates in higher education. Four, to showcase the role of OER in promoting access to education for all students. And finally, to encourage dialogue among educator and administrators about the potential of OER adoption to enhance student success. Participants in my study will be students in an introductory government political science course in the fall of 2024. The institution at which this will take place is a large R1 research land-grant institution. The study will use archival data to compare student performance. The control group will include students from 7 previous semesters in the same course who did not have access to OER, while the experimental group will consist of students in the fall 2024 course with access to OER. I'll be looking at final course grades, analyzing those, which will represent overall performance in the course. In addition to those final course grades, I'll also be looking at institutional data, collecting that on each participant and using it as covariates, including term GPA, cumulative GPA, term credits attempted, term credits earned, total credits attempted, and total credits earned. The students taking this class will be, again, an introductory government political science course. This is a 3-credit class that's part of university core curriculum, so it's required of all undergraduate students for graduation. These are large courses. The typical class enrollment for this course is around 450 students. And all students in this section of the course will be utilizing OER. Because the study has not been completed, there are not results. However, previous research on OER has found that courses that implement OER have higher student grades, higher pass rates, lower failing rates, and lower withdrawal rates. OER provides other student success outcomes, such as improved retention, persistence, and graduation rates. And it can also indirectly improve performance through increased satisfaction, increased engagement, and increased interest in the subject. When grades in courses that utilize OER have been examined, the D, F, and W, the DF and withdrawal rates, are decreased. And for Pell eligible, underserved populations and part-time students, DFW rates decrease significantly. In this study, I hypothesized that grades will increase, failing rates will decrease, and DFW rates will decrease as a result of implementing OER in the course. At last, there are implications for implementing OER in higher education. Financially, students benefit and their potential debt is reduced. Many times, students forego purchasing a textbook due to its exorbitant cost, and this can have negative effects on their learning, performance, and persistence. During the COVID-19 pandemic, OER use increased significantly when institutions were forced to switch to fully online learning. As a result, some faculty developed custom OER for their courses, and this increased the amount of open resources that are available to everyone. Finally, the OER movement has spawned something called zero textbook costs, zero textbook cost courses, or ZTC courses. This is where all course materials are provided through OER and other supplemental materials. ZTC courses are making education more accessible, affordable, and equitable for students. This concludes my virtual poster presentation on open educational resources and student success outcomes in higher education. I hope you've learned a little more about OER, and maybe this is something you'll consider taking back and implementing at your institution. Thanks for joining me tonight.